Brad Bradley, head coach of the Amelia County Raiders. What a season the Raiders have had, making the playoffs last year, but really taking it up a notch this season. They are in the state semifinals at Gretna next week before this past Friday's game when Manassas Park came to Amelia County. I had a chance to catch up with the head Raider himself, Mr. Brad Bradley. He talked about what had been going right for the team, what worried him about Manassas Park, and more. Amelia at Gretna next week. It's an old Dogwood District game for Brad Bradley in terms of back to Gretna. But right now, Amelia County's head coach talked about what he feared about Manassas Park before last Friday's game on the Sports Buffet podcast.
Always a pleasure for me to have Brad Bradley on the Sports Buffet podcast, head coach of the Amelia Raiders. Amelia's still kicking in the playoffs. And, Coach, as you always like to say, and as I always like to say, let's review before we preview. Strasburg didn't come up your way just to play dead. They gave you guys one heck of an effort last Saturday.
We knew what we were getting from Strasburg. I mean, defensively, they were probably one of the best defensive teams we played all year, and then that was no surprise. We outgained them just by a small margin. Defensively, I thought we played really well. We gave up a long run in the beginning of the second quarter, mainly our fault. We misaligned, and then most of their yards really came off the last drive. I think 80 of their yards came off the last drive, and they threw some passes and got the prevent defense. And we made a good goal line stand there at the end. We just got behind the chains on that on offense. We had a couple touchdowns called back with holding calls. One was a really good call. I don't know about the second one in the second half. But, it is what it is, and you never hear me complain about referee or anything like that. But it was hard for us. We got behind the chains a couple times, and we couldn't, you get a second and 25 or a second and 20, it's hard to come back off that. So we just never could get a rhythm on offense. We moved the ball well. I thought we moved it real consistently. We only had to punt a couple times in the game. But at the end of the day, we only put 14 points on the board. I was proud of our kids, though, because I thought our defense stepped up and really did a tremendous job. I thought our offense found a way to, to get the points when they needed to get the points. And I was just really happy with our football team. We just found a way to win. In the playoffs, it doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to, 1 point wins a 1 point win. And, we were able to squeak out an 8 point win. And, I give a lot of credit to our kids. They did a lot of good things, and we had a couple chances throughout the game to fold and to let it go the other way, but we didn't do it. And we told them at halftime that, hey, we got 24 more minutes to decide what we're going to do. They're going to take our dream away. And I thought our kids responded really well with that.
I know you've played a lot of these teams in the playoffs before when you were at William Campbell. Does that at all give you a heads up in the are the tendencies that these teams are running, like Strasburg and Manassas Park, the same as what they were, many moons ago?
No, not really. Both are the same. Both are different coaches than they were back then. Coach Proctor that was with Strasburg retired 4 years ago. The coach, Jeff Lloyd, that we used to be at Manassas Park, is now with Kettle Run. But traditionally, Strasburg has not changed. They've always very well coached. Coach Mark Roller's the head coach over there now and does a tremendous job with them. And, they're just very well coached. And I guess playing them, in the past, it was able to let our kids and prepare our kids for the fact that, look, number one, these guys are going to come. They're going to give us everything they got. They're going to be very tough, and they were. And they're going to play very disciplined football. We got to go beat them. They're not going to beat themselves. So, I think the biggest thing about playing before, we understood what kind of kids they were. Same thing with Manassas Park. We played Manassas Park in 2002 in the Region B championship game. And, we know Manassas Park's a little bit different than they were back then. They're way different in terms of their offense. They're now more of a power-type team, where they were spread back in 2002. Defensively, they're a little different, but, it just prepares me to make them understand that these are good football teams, very well-coached football teams, and, you get in the third round of the playoffs, you're not going to find any bad teams, and we just got to go out there and we got to make things happen on ourselves. We got to be proactive instead of reactive. That's what I try to tell our kids all year. We got to make plays instead of, trying to react to plays.
You like this new playoff system we got going?
I think I do. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not, a lot of people will complain about this or that, but, to me, we play with the hand that's dealt to us. I do like the fact that you don't have to play the same teams week in and week out when you get to that first, second round. I like the fact that it does create some pretty cool matchups, teams that never played each other before. You take the Gretna Riverhead game this weekend. That's a matchup that's never happened before. It creates some matchups. It gives teams that that might have had a bad season. Like you look at William Campbell 3-7, but they go up, they beat the number 2 seed in Division I, 42-0. That just shows the kind of football that's played in Central Virginia. Virginia. And I think that's just it's something. It's just an intangible that you didn't get out of the old playoff system. So I think it does give a team that maybe didn't have such a good year, but coming on and playing a tough schedule, they get into the playoffs strictly by the teams they played, and then they get a chance to beat somebody. And that's what's happened to William Campbell, Bath County. That happened to them. And you get some matchups. The travel, it's a long ways, but at the end of the day, I think it'll all even out. And so if you ask me if I like it, I really do think it's maybe not perfect yet, but I think it's definitely on its way to being a really good system.
And you guys have benefited in terms of a couple upsets, and you've seen the lower seeds, but I take it you have not been preaching to your guys, hey, we're not seeing the number 2 seed, we're not seeing the number 6 seed or whatever. It's just another team on the field in Manassas Park.
I don't think there is any upsets. I mean, I don't think there is any upsets. I think, just like when you get into, years past, they've had the 1 through 4 seeds in the region. Nobody looked at that. The only thing that was for is home field advantage. And that's really the only thing for in this. I don't consider anything that's happened so far an upset. We've seen Manassas Park on film. We saw Washington Lee, and we didn't consider that an upset at all. I think throughout the time that I don't really think in Division II there's been a lot of upsets. I think that there's some really good teams in Division II this year, and I think that any one of the 8 right now has a chance to win it. That's the great thing about the system. Here you are. You've already won 2 games. We're going into our 3rd game tomorrow, and every team out there has a chance to win it. So it is a tough bracket. Number 1, especially in Division II compared to Division I, and I also think that it's a long bracket. 15-game season is a long time. But we don't look at the seeds. We just look who's the next opponent right now. That's the Manassas Park Cougars, and that's who we have on our mind.
What worries you about Manassas Park?
Their running game. They're a very strong running game. They're led by a kid named John Bird, number 34. He's a senior. He's 5'11", 210. Carried the ball roughly 46 times against Washington Lee last Friday night. Don't know his yards, but I know it was over 250 yards. The week before that, he carried the ball, I think, close to 20 times for 308 yards against William Monroe. He's a big back. Was a huge part of their offense last year. He's countered on the wing by Nicholas Johnson, sophomore, 5'7", 155 fast kid. They also got a good quarterback, Ryan Kolb. He's a junior. He's 5'7", 175, and they're basically going to get what we consider basically an unbalanced power out type set with a little bit of single wing tendencies, with a little snipper back, and then doing some things. But basically, they're going to come right at you with ISO, power, and throw the ball and try to put you to sleep and throw the ball. The Bird kid is a very, very, very good football player. They're good up front, and they're just going to bring it right at us, which I think does play in our strength. Our defense has been very tough this year, and we've been good against the run. I told them, I said, this is going to be my biggest challenge in the year. I definitely think that's going to be the case.
Anybody, any of these teams that you're playing, any of these guys have any fan pages that you use to motivate? I remember it just popped up in my head way back in the day when you were at William Campbell, and you guys played somebody named Richard Long. He had a fan page. Anybody got a web page that you can motivate?
No, I haven't seen anybody have a web page, but if anybody should, it should be John Bird. I mean, one of the things I know that my kids and myself, you punch his name into Google and you see John Bird highlights from last year. It's a 9-minute highlight tape of him just running wild. So, obviously, we can't forget about the wing. We can't forget about the fullback and quarterback. But obviously, coming into this game when a kid carries the ball 46 times in the second round of playoffs, you've got to focus yourself on John Bird. And, obviously, we've been talking about him all week long, and we've been preparing our kids to understand what this means. And, I think that last week, our kids are new to the playoffs. The game against Estes was the first playoff win in Amelia history. So the Strasburg game was the second win in Amelia history, and it's the first time we've been this far. But I think the kids now understand that, hey, the finality of it. You win, you keep on going on. If you lose, you're done. And I think our kids are starting to understand that. And I know these kids the way I think I do. They don't want to go home anytime soon, and they're having fun. They enjoy what we're doing, and I feel like these kids will do everything they can to extend the season as long as we can.
Have you noticed a change in their mentality and practice and everything? Like this is the second season right now.
Oh yeah, I definitely. I think our kids. I will be honest with you. Our kids are a little different. They're those kind of kids that can basically, they can be happy-go-lucky, in the locker room. They can do this and that. But when you walk on that field, they snap it on. and they understand what it's all about. And definitely our practices have been good this week. Not the best weather conditions. We have a wet field. Go out. Really been really nice actually last week. At the beginning of this week, we just had a wet field last couple of days. But finally yesterday we got a little playoff weather. A little windy, a little cold. I'm thinking, Dad, we've been practicing in 60-degree weather. It's not like the playoffs. I've been trying to prepare these kids to understand it. It's going to be cold. It's going to be wet. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. But I think our focus has definitely been there, and I think the excitement level's been there. And I think these kids have put it in their mind a long time ago that they want to do something that's never been done here before.
What do you guys need to do to win this football game? One key offense, one key defense, and one key in the special teams.
Well, I'll be honest with you. On offense, we got to put points on the board. I think we need to take advantage of every opportunity we get possession-wise, and we need to put points on the board. I think we left a lot of points off the board last week, and I think this week we got to put some points on the board. We got to get our offense geared up, ready to roll. Defensively, and we got to stop number 34. Don't get me wrong, we got to stop them all, but we've got to slow him down. We got to stop them. We got to get them off the field. We got to get 3 and outs. We got to get our defense off the field, put our offense on the field. And I feel like we got to also keep them from grinding the clock and keeping us off the field. Special teams, I feel like we just have to win the special teams battle. I feel like going in, we might have the edge in a little bit on the kicking game, but I think we got to come out there and we got to win the special teams battle. We got to make a play somewhere. But I think that this is going to be won or lost up front. On both sides of the ball, our defensive line versus their offensive line, and their defensive line versus our offensive line. I think that's where the game is going to be won or lost.
Coach, best of luck against Manassas Park, and hopefully we're doing this again next week.
Definitely. This is the time of year that I'm really hoping I get to talk to you. And, I really appreciate you for everything you've done this year for us so far, and I'm really hoping that we talk to you next week, and I appreciate it.
I hope you like talking to me at all points during the year.
We'll talk about that off the air.
Brad Bradley on the Sports Buffet Podcast.